grab your popcorn and get ready to tweet out one of your best hype gifts, because we are about to see one of the most exciting HGC matches of North America this weekend. And it's all going down between Roll20 and Team Freedom. Are you pumped?
I'm pumped.
I'm ready.
She's ready.
We gotta do some stuff first.
Oh,
but then we're gonna get into it.
Drafts, things, map bans, who cares? Let's play the video game.
Okay, well, let's get in the standings first, because we've got a little bit of things to get out of the way. First of all, No Tomorrow ties themselves up with Team Freedom and Gale Force Esports 4-1, and that is why that victory over Naventic was so important. Poor Naventic continuing to hope for their first series victory, but they won't get it from No Tomorrow, although they had a lot of good things going for them last series.
Yeah, they very much did. Yeah, it's pretty apparent, you know, if we have a split here where it's the 5-3 of North America, the teams that still have a very high probability of making it to the Western Clash. Obviously, some will suffer, but then the gap there are superstars, even in Death and Naventic, have all been struggling to find themselves a win at HGC.
And now we look at Roll20 and Team Freedom. Team Freedom put themselves in the running, whereas maybe a lot of people didn't think or didn't consider them to be up in the running with Gale Force and with No Tomorrow. They said with one decisive victory, yes, we are. We deserve to be right up here in beating Gale Force Esports, and they beat them 3-1. They have actually lost the least amount of games so far in all of Phase 2. They have only lost 4 games throughout Phase 2, but another team has only lost 5, and that is Roll20. Roll20 is on their roll, whatever you want to call it, their tear after losing the first series to Gale Force, but it was to Gale Force that they lost, and Team Freedom beating Gale Force means that Roll20 really needs this victory, but so too does Freedom.
Yeah, I would say it's more on the side of Roll20 for sure, but if Freedom gets it, then you're like, that's done. There's your what, you know, they have found themselves at the top of North America, and we've got ourselves a new numero uno, or at least close enough there. It's just, it's so weird that we are relying on all these games because that three-way tie that we see extending between those teams. But I really do feel like, from what we've seen so far, I feel like it's Gale Force or Freedom. They are our number 1 and number 2. I feel like they're just a slight step ahead. Roll20 has taken that step behind, and yes, they are gaining momentum. It's just whether or not it's enough. I feel like I tried to explain this to some of the guys on production out back. Like, for me, if I was to describe the series, it is the closest in terms of skill level overall, but I can still see it to be a 3-0. It's one of those ones because of both how they play. Both are very good at just being like, if you're worse than them, they just don't mess around. They don't have that kind of No Tomorrow moments like we experienced in the last series where it was like game 3, oh, that was not what we wanted. Game number 4, you're like, that was closer than they felt comfortable. Both these teams just go, no, we're done with this game. We're going to end it, and they end up getting a win very clean.
You know, I was hoping for a lot of explosive plays when Team Freedom played versus Gale Force Esports, but later on, we did see Team Freedom go back to more of their, we're going to play things patiently, cautiously until we find our opening. And when I talked to Kier, he was like, yeah, Gale Force is going to play their global game, so we have to play around that. We have to make sure that we have what it takes. But Roll20 versus Roll20, it should be a lot more fun, and I can see that because both of these teams are explosive, they are punishing, and they can team fight very well. I am so pumped for this series, so let's get into it. Roll20 versus Team Freedom.
The way that we decide how we're feeling about the next week is mostly just about how we're doing as a team, and not so much about who we're playing against. Knowing that we're going against some really good competition this week is definitely mostly just going to be used for motivation, and we're just basically going to up our preparation as much as possible so that we don't make the mistakes we've made in the past. I think Team Freedom's biggest weakness and their greatest strength is probably their drafting. I think their drafting is probably the best in NA right now, but also it's pretty much always the same. So as long as we pick our fights well and we focus a lot on the draft, making sure that they don't get the picks that they want the most, that we'll probably be able to beat them fairly easily.
After beating GFE, we kind of solidified ourselves as a top team, at least for this part of the phase. Even though before beating GFE, we had a really good record, it was mostly against some of the teams in the lower part of the standings, so beating GFE kind of made that a reality for us, and now we have a really good chance of making the Clash. I feel like our strengths are team fighting and brawling, so going into the Roll20 series, I think will be a bigger test for us to see if our style works versus the style that will be the same on Roll20 side. Roll20 is sort of in a slump right now. Even versus Naventic or Superstars, they drop maps, and if you